We are currently being marketed to. Did you know that? And when I mean marketed, they're not selling us on any product. They're selling us on going against our own good gut instincts. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I have had pretty good gut instincts in my life. I'm a thinker. I'm someone who likes to be challenged on what I believe and what I think, so that then I could be better and refine my thinking and continue to refine my thinking always. And so I am constantly on the lookout for any information that would improve, what I believe, why I believe it, There are some people out there, though, that choose to let other people think for them. And they are very easily manipulated through psychological tactics. And that's what I'm afraid is happening right now with this 9-1 DIVOC vword. They are using these very tactics, and I've got a bunch of stories today that I'm going to go over about some of these tactics that they're using. And they're not even trying to hide that they're using these tactics to try to convince you that you need to be taking this shot for the V word. So let's get into some of this. Here's an article from Psychology Today. Will Americans take the 9-1 DIVOC V word? All indications are that a significant number will delay or outright refuse the V word. If you have checked news headlines recently, chances are you've seen the rah-rah, we can't wait stories about the forthcoming 9-1 DIVOC V word. Last week, I searched for the phrase 9-1 DIVOC V word as I was writing this post, and every recent news article that came up was all optimistic about it. The news stories covered the FDA's accelerated timeline to approve the emergency use authorization V word, how quickly the V word is going to be distributed throughout the country, who should get the V word first, and how it's going to improve those who travel by plane. In these narratives, the media seem to be banking on the implicit assumption that Americans simply can't wait to get the V word because they're ready to be rid of this 9-1 DIVOC virus, and they will line up in droves to do so the moment it's available. However, dig a little deeper, and the situation is quite a bit more nuanced and uncertain than that. So in this post, we're going to examine the validity of the optimistic narrative that Americans will widely adopt the 9-1 DIVOC V word. Is this reasonable for them to expect? Will the V word be widely accepted and adopted quickly as its access spreads? Or should we be wary and prepare for a slow and faltering adoption? I want to answer each of these questions considering recent survey data through the lens of psychology. So I do think that they're putting on a face right now in the mainstream of, oh yeah, everybody's getting this. Of course everybody's getting it. And so natural human instinct wants you to go along with the crowd because nobody wants to stand out. Nobody wants to be outside of what everyone else is doing. And so they will go along with the crowd. That's kind of what they're banking on. What they haven't banked on is there's a whole lot of people, myself included, probably a lot of you guys, that we're just very skeptical about this. And it's going to be an uphill battle for them to try to convince us. And we're going to get into some tactics they're going to try to use on us to convince us to take this V word. So what do the V word for 9-1 DIVOC intention surveys find? Here are snippets of survey results conducted with Americans by different reputable organizations. Each survey asked the V word intentions questions differently, and there were methodological differences, but together they paint a consistent picture. In September 2020, the Pew Research Center, 49% say they definitely or probably would not get the V word. This number was 27% in May, suggesting that there's more widespread resistance by the time the fall came. I wonder since September what that has done. Pew, do another study or survey, because I think you might be surprised to find that 49% is probably in the 60s now. In early October, a poll conducted for CNN found similar results. 51% say they would try to get the V word. 45% said they are not going to try. An October poll by Gallup asked if an FDA-approved V word to prevent 9/11 DIVOC was available right now at no cost, would you agree to get the V word? At the beginning of November, the percentage saying yes was 58%, which was up from 50% in October. And then finally, according to Morning Consult's November 30th, 2020 update, the share of adults who said they'd get the coronavirus V word if one became available ticked down to 50%. And the headline number has steadily declined in the surveys, starting from a high of 72%. If we generalize from these surveys, it's clear that there is a large and significant proportion, anywhere from a third to half of Americans, are unlikely to take a V word, even if it's free and widely available. Note that this includes both people who are likely to actively refuse it and those who are hesitant at the moment that they responded but may get on board once they see others get the V word. So that is a good line of distinction. There are some people that are just absolutely no, will never do it, don't even think about it. That's a group. Then you've got people, and this is where some of these psychological tactics we're going to talk about here in a minute will work. You have people that say, okay, let's see other people take it and see how they react. And we've seen already some of the responses of people and how they have reacted to it. We've heard a few little reports. You're not hearing it on the mainstream television. You're having to see it on the internet, hang out on Twitter and type in various keywords and you will find some of these videos. We know that two groups are significantly affected by 9/11 DIVOC, specifically the frontline healthcare workers and those who are older Americans. Where do they stand on the V word? The results from the surveys of these two groups are telling. A survey conducted by the American Nurses Foundation that included 12,939 nurses in October found that only 34% say they would voluntarily take the V word. Did you hear that? These are nurses of a large organization of nurses. And only 1/3 said, yeah, I'll do it. So what does that mean for the other 2/3? Why are they hesitant if there's confidence in this V word? 36% flat out said they're refusing. And then 31% of the nurses said they were unsure. Another academic survey of 1,069 healthcare workers in September found that 66.5% of them wanted to delay getting the V word, with 49.9% indicating they would prefer to wait and see how the V word affects others first. These are medical professionals saying, yeah, I don't want to be the guinea pig for this thing because I know it was rushed. I know it's a mRNA and that's never happened before. I know a lot of problems in the phase 3 clinical trials with I don't want to be the reason why someone takes or doesn't take this. Now, isn't that curious? As a layperson, as a patient, are you concerned that half of these survey participants in the healthcare world don't even want to take the V word until they see how it works on other people first? Ominously, but not surprisingly, the author said, notably, we observed several instances where women and racial or ethnic minorities expressed much more hesitant attitudes towards V words than their counterparts. Yes, look up the Tuskegee experiment and you'll know why black people don't like the idea of a V word and them being first. I don't blame them. Don't blame them one bit. Look up your history, people, because this is a thing and it's a huge thing that they're going to have to overcome, especially with that population. University of Michigan physicians surveyed 1,556 older Americans between the ages of 50 and 80 in October. They found that 58% of them indicated they would likely get the V word, while 28% were unlikely and 14% unsure. There were also racial differences, with a higher proportion of white respondents saying that they would get the V word, 63%, Hispanic, 51%, and Black, 40%, for the reasons we just mentioned. Other surveys have also found that Black Americans are a lot more cynical about the 9-1 DIVOC V word than other groups, and they have lower intentions to take it. These findings are quite consistent across studies, and it leads to two rather gloomy conclusions. An even greater proportion of healthcare workers compared to the general American public is not on board with the 9-1 DIVOC V word. This is a problem. Healthcare workers tend to be the experts that patients look up to. They're the opinion leaders that drive adoption by their patients and their communities. If they are themselves resistant, they could alarm lay people and slow down the V word adoption amongst the people they influence. I just posted on my stories today yet another nurse who said no way, no how on this V word. And she articulated all of her reasons. We're not hearing about that in the mainstream, which is why I highlight them when I find them on social media. I highlight them on my social media so people can see, yeah, there is some hesitancy, no matter what you're seeing out there as this concerted effort. And this is part of the psychological tactics, you guys. One of the things they're doing is they're only showing you the rah-rah, look at me, I got vaccinated, oh my God, and it's just this ruse, because that's not the reality of what's happening. The second concern and gloomy conclusion is a significant number of vulnerable groups like older Americans in general, Hispanic, Black, older Americans in particular, are indifferent, or even worse, they're resistant to getting the V word at the moment. So at least three reasons raise the distinct and frightening possibility that many respondents who say they will get the V word in a survey may not follow through. So even though people said, yeah, I'll get it, there are some reasons they're going to articulate why they may not. First, at this moment in time, the act of V-wording against 9-1 DIVOC has a robust social desirability. So right now, everybody's excited. Oh, it's finally, we can bring an end to all the everything that's been miserable this last year. Because all they've fed us all year long is fear, 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 fear. And now they want us to swallow that fear all at the altar of the 9-1 DIVOC V word, and supposedly that fear is going to go away. But as we saw from the Weston A. Price Foundation, no, we're still going to have to wear a mask, still going to have to socially distance, still going to have to be locked down and avoid crowds and avoid seeing grandma. Things aren't changing even with the V word, and yet they promised all year that's exactly what would happen. Refusing to V word has all sorts of negative connotations attached to it. This may result in a significant degree of saying when respondents don't mean it. There may be people who are resistant to wanting to take it, and they have to be convinced with some of the things we're going to talk about in a second. Second, in the best of times, getting V-worded, like other medical procedures, is an effortful behavior. Some 9-1 DIVOC V-words require even more effort than normal. 2 doses have to be taken weeks apart, with the possibility of not feeling well after the first dose. We've heard quite a few of those. In the clinical trials, by the way, that they did do, when people had adverse reactions to the V-word, guess when it happened? After the second dose, because in the second dose, it tends to be a little bit stronger presence of the V word. And so that's when people got sick. That's what I'm waiting on seeing. I want to see, okay, all those people who are first in line to get the V word, the Pfizer one, they get it 3 weeks later. So here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see people getting their second dose. The Moderna one, which just came out, it's 4 weeks between those doses. So by the end of January, we'll be seeing how those people do. And that's kind of where we are right now, waiting for those 2 doses. In social psychology, we know all too well that when behavior involves including an effort to get there, the gap between behavioral intentions and behavior increases. Enthusiasm does not always translate into action. So all those people, they're like, yeah, I'm going to take the V word. Yeah. And what do you mean I got to do 2 doses? And people will back away.